Ooh, let's do it. FE12 Hard 3 ZPG, Chapter 12. This one's pretty nutty. There's a ton of incredibly powerful dragons rushing us that one round kill almost everybody, because this is Hard 3 and they can attack from 1 and 2 range, meaning that, like the previous chapter, our Draco Knights can't counter on enemy phase, or even survive combat on enemy phase, and are therefore kinda useless here compared to Hard 2 and lower. Instead, our front line will consist of Pala as a Swordmaster with a Forged Wyrmslayer because she can double enemy dragons with her insane base Swordmaster speed of 22, and Minerva as a General who boasts an impressive 40 base health and 21 base defense. I did have to finally dip into my reserves though to make this work, with an Angelic Robe on both Minerva and Pala, as well as an Energy Drop and Draco Shield on Minerva. As far as my naming convention for Forge weapons, killing dragons with a sword doesn't really line up with any FE7 characters, but using a sword solely for doubling with effective damage definitely makes me think of Lyn, so that's the name of this +2 Might Forge Wyrmslayer. Now, the problem with the beginning of this map is that using any of my good tools against this dragon to the right will prevent me from doing what I need to do on turn 2, so I just have to crit with the Excalibur while everybody else is just kind of chilling. But please don't think I was lazy and took the easy way out by routing that crit. It really is the only thing I can do. The good news is there are no more routed crits until the last turn, so there's plenty of raw combat to look forward to. Now, there are 2 dragons and a barbarian that spawn from these forts right here at the start of turn 2 enemy phase, so we need to block those off with our Draco Knights right away. The fact that they spawn a turn early on Hard 3 actually works in my favor, because I can get my Draco Knights back to work even faster. Now, George deals heavy chip damage with the Parthia and some Star Shards, and avoids being doubled thanks to Scorpio. It should be obvious that I couldn't possibly have pushed forward onto the bridge on turn 1. You might be thinking I could avoid using the Energy Drop on Minerva, and just trade the Strength Shards off of George here, but as the chapter goes on, it becomes impossible to get the shards where they need to be every single turn, especially since I wanted this entire strat to be completely robust against stat variation, which it actually is for once. This recover here might seem like overkill, but Pala will soon be out of Militia's range, and so a mend right now from Militia instead wouldn't be enough to tide her over until later. The central problem of this turn is that Pala's healer will be in enemy range, as you can see, and any other kill set up for the dragon on turn 1 would have prevented Fina from reaching Militia here. Fortunately, this barbarian moves first and picks George, who hits back pretty hard, and this is why I needed a beefed up General Minerva. Nobody else is going to survive this. So you can see why this chapter is so brutal. There's a ton of monstrous enemies barreling down this narrow bridge at us, and there are more on the way. Like we saw in chapter 11, these wyverns aren't a threat on player phase because Excalibur one-shots them pretty easily, and Wendell joined the army with required B rank in tomes as a sage, so he can help us avoid using the Parthia any more than necessary. Pala easily overkills this barbarian with the Devil Sword, but if George had used the Silver Bow instead of the Parthia on enemy phase, this barbarian wouldn't die in one Devil Sword hit unless he rolled lower defense, and like I said, I didn't want to rely on stat variation this time. George is about to get mended for the second time, and I could have done 2 vulneraries and 2 heals instead, but 2 mend uses is less effective gold, while on the other hand using up a scarcer resource, so hopefully that greed doesn't come back to bite me. George gets in range of the next dragon for the same kill setup as on turn 1, and there are no more reinforcements that you have to worry about from these forts, so our Draco Knights head over to join the others. Now, this Berserker coming in is named Daros, and needs to be recruited by Marth. But if I do so on this turn, I would have to use the Rescue Staff to get Marth out of the death, and I don't want to do that. So instead, I need to take out all the other enemies while making sure Daros can't kill anyone on enemy phase. Pala takes out this dragon pretty easily, but Militia is going to die to Daros' hand axe if she tries to heal Pala, so we'll heal Minerva instead. And the Recover Staff is really showing its value here. This crit obviously isn't needed. Minerva is in range here of another dragon off-screen to the north in this position, but here's why it's necessary. I have no one-round KOs against this Swordmaster without routing a crit, which I really didn't want to do, but Etzel can quite comfortably get doubled by this Swordmaster's Levin Sword, and then kill him after getting danced. but only because Minerva is preventing Daros from getting to him with his silver axe. The hand axe is so puny in this game that Daros cannot kill Etzel or Wendell with it. Sita's going to come in and close off the front line for us, although Sirius could have done that just as well. We're barely scraping by so far, but it's about to get even worse. Surprise! More death is on its way. I didn't want Wendell to waste a Thoron use here, or hurt Daros on counter, which is why he traded it to Pala a minute ago. As always, this game gives a low % crit that I don't want, that prevents me from showing off how perfect this strat is. So just pretend that Sita and Sirius helped to get this kill. In which case, Sita would have gotten countered by the Tomahawk, so keep that in mind. God, what are these crits? What are these crits, dude? I'm trying to show off a strat. Fuck! So again, just pretend Aaron picked up this kill with the Steel Lance, as well as grabbing that Dragon Pike for later. A dance and a recover. Get Pala and Lyn ready to slay another dragon. Pala dodges here, but it doesn't affect anything. And Etzel and George are just in range to one-shot these wyverns. Parthia looks like overkill, but even with all of the strength shards and a silver bow, George wouldn't have killed here, so unfortunately it was necessary to use Parthia. This and the previous player phase were some of the toughest I've ever faced in Fire Emblem. But this chapter's pretty much over now. We have one more dragon to kill, but I'm going to chip it down with some cheapo weapons to use Lyn once instead of twice. If Daros hadn't critted last turn, he would have gotten countered, which is what I planned for. So just imagine that Militia is healing Daros here instead of Wendell. Now, there's a dragon off to the far northeast with the last star shard, and the boss is a pretty tough dragon as well. I need to kill both with low % dragonpike crits, but please understand, I would not do this if I didn't absolutely have to. When you cross a certain tile threshold on the map towards the boss, dragon reinforcements spawn from 11 forts on the map. I tried my absolute best to deal with it, but there's just no way in the world it's ever gonna happen with these restrictions. I urge you to look up a video of those reinforcements because it is insane. But we can still appreciate how beautiful this setup is. That Fina managed to get both Marth and Etzel where they need to be this quickly, right? Remember when I said that Sita would have been countered by the Tomahawk? This is where I would have healed her back to full with either Militia or Wendell. So I did plan and account for all that, it's just the game refuses to let me show off my strats and keeps giving me these crits that I don't want. Sita is also going to need to crit with the Killer Lance, but keep it. I want you to hear me on this one. This crit wouldn't have been necessary if I'd bought another Dragon Pike at the secret shop last chapter, The way that the star shards are set up on Sita and Marth right now would set up a perfect kill for Marth with Lyn and Sita with a dragonpike, which, let's be honest, is pretty romantic. So having to use this killer lance is really a problem with my lack of planning rather than a problem with the strat itself. So I don't count that crit. We're going to rescue Fina up here to dance for Marth and get the hell out of here in an amazing 8 turns. That siege setup with Marth and Etzel is one of the most beautiful things I've ever come up with. I can't believe how perfectly that finish came together. And I also can't properly express how difficult this chapter was. I think it ended up looking a lot easier than it was, though. I don't know. Can't wait to keep going with this run. Thanks for watching.